You know that feeling when you're trying to keep up, trying to grab the key info, but it just feels like drinking from a fire hose.
Yeah, there's just so much out there. It can be overwhelming.
Well, that's what we're here for. This is the deep dive. We take one really important topic and dig in, pull out the core stuff you need.
And today we're focusing on something, well, something almost every product team bumps into eventually. Product debt.
Exactly. And our guide for this is a great article by Sam Robertstad. It's on his Product Leaders Playbook Substack called Product Debt: The Hidden Cost of Saying Yes Too Often. So our mission, really, for you listening, is to get a solid handle on what this product debt thing actually is. Why does it happen? What's the fallout? And crucially, how do we start dealing with it, all through Robertstad's lens?
And what's really striking about his take is that product debt, it's usually not some big conscious mistake, is it?
No, not at all. He paints it as more of a slow creep. It builds up from all these little seemingly okay yeses along the way.
Yeah, like adding that small feature for a key stakeholder.
Right. Or that one-off customer request you squeeze in. Or shipping that quick toggle feature because it seemed easy.
In the moment, they feel like wins, or at least like harmless compromises.
Yeah,
You're being responsive, right?
totally. But Robertstad's point is it's the cumulative effect. All those small yeses pile up.
And suddenly the product feels slower, maybe a bit confusing.
Yeah, exactly. Its purpose gets fuzzy. The team maybe isn't quite sure what the core thing is anymore. It's the unintended consequence of lots of well-meaning small decisions.
It's like it sneaks up on you.
Yeah.
You don't realize you're carrying this weight until it actually stops you from doing the next important thing.
Which brings us to, okay, what is it then? How is it different from, say, technical debt? Robertstad makes a really useful distinction there.
He does. Technical debt, that's usually about coding choices, right? Taking shortcuts now that you know you'll have to fix or refactor later.
Right. Might make maintenance harder down the line.
But product debt, Robertstad argues, it's broader. More about the product itself. He calls it the bloat, the clutter, the complexity that comes from saying yes too much.
Prioritizing that short-term progress over, long-term clarity.
Exactly.
Okay.
Adding features without a strong strategic why or letting old stuff hang around too long. The product sprawls sideways instead of getting stronger at its core.
And the impact is different, too.
Yeah, that's key. Technical debt makes the product harder to maintain for the engineers.
Okay.
Product debt makes it harder to understand. For users trying to navigate it, sure, but also for the team itself.
Ah, right. So it affects usability and strategy, not just the code base.
And Robertstad really nails it when he says today's yeses define tomorrow's maintenance burden. Not just code maintenance, but like strategic maintenance, keeping it all coherent.
So how does this debt actually show up? What does it look like day to day? He lists a few things.
Yeah, it's a good checklist. Things like bloated scope. Every release becomes this huge, slow effort because there's just so much stuff packed in.
Or a fractured user experience, where different parts feel disconnected.
Exactly. Maybe because different teams built them in silos without a unified vision. You also see overlapping features, multiple things trying to solve the same problem, none doing it particularly well.
And the roadmap, it feels reactive, not intentional.
Yeah, just chasing the next request instead of driving towards a clear goal. And maybe the most telling sign, the team isn't even sure what they shouldn't build anymore. The no muscle has weakened.
Okay, so if it's not usually deliberate, how does it start? Why do teams fall into this trap? Robertstad says it stems from those reasonable-sounding decisions.
Right. The let's just squeeze this in, or we need to keep this stakeholder happy, or it's not that much work. They sound logical in isolation.
But they often bypass the real strategic check, like, does this actually fit?
Exactly. We say yes to avoid friction or to feel like we're making progress or just to be, accommodating. And the real cost, the long-term cost, is hidden in that moment.
It's deferred, right? You don't pay immediately.
Precisely. The cost comes later. When you're dealing with weird edge cases, or trying to bolt a new feature onto a confusing workflow, or sunsetting something that never really worked, that's when you feel the pain of those early yeses.
So what are the underlying drivers then? He breaks down a few common causes.
Yeah, he talks about an over-accommodation culture, where the product manager becomes more of a request router than a strategic filter.
Like a conduit, not a curator.
Exactly. Then there are weak prioritization frameworks.
Yeah.
If everything's high priority, then nothing really is.
Okay. What else?
Unvalidated assumptions.
Yeah.
Building stuff based on weak signals, and then it just sticks around, cluttering things up.
Even if it's not delivering value.
Right. And there's the fear of slowing down. Saying no feels like blocking progress, even though the real slowdown comes later from the debt itself.
And of course, stakeholder appeasement, saying yes for harmony now, but creating confusion later.
The key thing is that unstrategic yes always has a cost. You're essentially kicking the complexity can down the road where it just gets bigger.
Which leads perfectly into one of his most powerful ideas, the compound interest of clarity.
Ah, yes. I love this analogy. It really clicks.
Explain that a bit. How does clarity compound?
Well, just like small savings grow over time with interest, Robertstad argues that being disciplined about your product strategy, which includes saying a strategic no, builds strength exponentially.
So no isn't negative, it's protective.
Exactly. It protects your focus, protects the product's integrity, keeps your roadmap aligned. It's not about stopping things, it's about enabling the right things.
And he says every small no today creates room for a bigger yes tomorrow. That really hits home.
It does. The benefits stack up, like a clearer UX, faster decisions because everyone's aligned, less rework.
Easier onboarding for users and new team members.
Yeah, a stronger story for the product. The whole team understands what winning looks like. It all flows from that clarity.
And the flip side is product debt has its own compounding effect.
Yeah, he calls it compound confusion. More features, more complexity. Trying to please everyone slows you down because you're stretched thin.
More support load. Harder to scale.
All of it. You might not feel the sting of each individual yes, but you're constantly paying this interest in confusion, complexity, lost focus.
Okay, so how do you know if you're paying this interest? It's not like getting a credit card bill for product debt.
No, unfortunately not.
Yeah.
Robertstad says it shows up more subtly. Not as bugs necessarily, but as confusion, hesitation, misalignment.
Like things that should be simple suddenly become really hard.
Exactly. That's often when teams realize they've got a problem.
So what are the warning signs we should look for?
Well, one is if the team struggles to explain the product simply, if it takes qualifiers and diagrams, that's a flag.
Or if the roadmap feels reactive, driven by feasibility, not strategy.
Another big one, constantly revisiting recent decisions, reworking features, relabeling things, even killing features you just launched. That churn often points to a lack of initial clarity.
What about feedback?
If customer feedback is scattered, like it's okay, but I find it confusing, that suggests maybe there's just too much going on.
And metrics that don't tell a clear story?
Yeah, maybe because success itself is ill-defined or spread too thin. And finally, if new hires feel totally lost during onboarding, like they're trying to decode ancient history, that's a bad sign.
That makes sense. He shares a story too, right? About debt that wasn't even in the product.
Yeah, the hidden debt example. It's really relatable. He talks about realizing his team was using 3 different vendors for closely related services.
3? Wow. How did that happen?
Just organically,
Okay.
Different teams, different needs over time, different yeses to different solutions. No grand plan.
Sounds familiar. Vendor sprawl.
Totally. And while it sort of worked, this hidden debt was quietly draining the budget, fragmenting how things got done.
And leading to inconsistent customer experiences.
Exactly, depending on which vendor was involved. And the big consequence, important roadmap stuff was getting delayed. Not because they couldn't build it, but because managing the operations around these vendors was sucking up all the oxygen.
So what did they do?
They made a strategic no to the fragmentation, ran an RFP, consolidated down to one vendor.
And the result?
Lower costs, obviously, but more importantly, they could actually ship product features faster. Without adding headcount, it freed up so much drag.
It's a great point. Clarity compounds in operations too, not just features. That strategic no unlocked momentum.
Absolutely. So, okay, we see the problem, we see the signs. How do you get out of the trap? Robertstad offers some practical steps.
Right. It starts with strategy, doesn't it? Always linking back.
Always. Every potential yes needs that strategic check. Does this actually align? He also suggests using no as a design tool.
A design tool? How so?
By consciously deciding what doesn't belong. Actively pruning and shaping the product by removing things that don't fit the core direction.
Like auditing your roadmap like a budget.
Exactly. Questioning every item. Is its place still justified? And making the debt visible. Talking about it in planning, so it's not this invisible weight.
And getting the whole team recentered on clarity, making sure everyone understands the why behind the what.
Because, as he puts it so well, product debt doesn't just slow you down, it reshapes what your product is.
Wow, that's powerful. It's not just about speed, it changes the product's identity.
Yeah. What you ship is what you become. If you keep shipping unstrategic yeses, your product becomes, well, unfocused, bloated. You have to be selective, curate it.
Okay, so let's wrap this up. The big takeaway for you listening, product debt is real, it's subtle, it comes from those easy yeses.
And over time, it builds complexity, obscures the purpose, and really holds you back.
So we definitely encourage you to reflect on this. Where have you seen this play out? Can you spot those seemingly small yeses that led to bigger issues later?
And maybe ask yourself the questions Robertstad poses, like what parts of our product are only there because we said yes without really asking why?
Where are we paying interest right now on old decisions that don't serve us anymore?
And maybe most practically, what's one small strategic no we could say this week? Just one that might create some breathing room, some clarity down the line.
It's a good challenge because those small decisions, yes or no, they really do add up. That strategic no. It's not just for products, is it? It's about focus and direction and pretty much anything.
Absolutely. It's about shaping your future intentionally instead of letting complexity creep in and dictate it for you. Something to think about.